we're unlocking something known as the Lotus Method. So look, if you've ever struggled with actually getting things done, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get right into it.
Have you ever experienced this? You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Waking up early, finishing up that pending project, or, finally starting that workout routine. The plan is crystal clear in your head. But then, your brain just kind of whispers, yeah, not today. Let's just rewatch that sitcom and order some takeout. It is incredibly frustrating, right?
Well, I've got some good news for you. It's really not because you're lazy. In his book, Deep Work, Cal Newport points out this totally fascinating truth. He says our brains are actually wired to prefer short-term comfort over long-term growth. It's just our biological default. Doing hard things might make total logical sense, but emotionally, they feel incredibly heavy. Your brain is, quite literally, designed to just run right back to comfort. So today, we're going to break down how to override that exact biological instinct. Here's the agenda. We'll start with the brain's comfort trap, move into the samurai and the mud, and then walk through the stages, the seed, the ascent, and finally, the bloom.
Okay, part 1, the brain's comfort trap.
So why is this natural instinct for comfort hitting us so much harder today than it did in the past? Well, Michael Easter writes in The Comfort Crisis that modern life has essentially turned us into comfort addicts. Because everything around us is just so convenient now, right? From instant food delivery to perfectly climate-controlled rooms. We literally panic when we face even a little discomfort. We've lost our natural ability to tolerate resistance. So to fix this very modern problem, we need to look at a really ancient solution.
Which brings us to part 2, the samurai and the mud.
Let's travel way back to 12th century Japan, right in the middle of the Genpei War era. There was this super aggressive, ego-driven warrior monk named Bankshi, and he basically challenged everyone in his path. Well, one day, he challenges a calm, highly focused samurai named Yatsun. Now, Bankshi was absolutely convinced he'd win, but instead, he faced a crushing defeat. Now, most people would just make excuses, right? They'd blame their luck or the weather, but Bankshi didn't break. He actually experienced this massive mental shift. He bowed down, became Yatsun's follower, and voluntarily embraced brutal training. We're talking freezing cold nights, hunger, and immense physical pain. He just didn't back down.
So why didn't he quit? It's because he totally changed his relationship with struggle. Benkei realized something profound. Pain is not a punishment. Pain is an identity. For him, it wasn't some obstacle blocking his path anymore. It literally was the path. And honestly, this historical shift in thinking is exactly what we need today.
And that mindset, that is the absolute foundation of the Lotus Method. It's an ancient Eastern philosophy all about accepting and actually using hardship to grow. And let me be clear here, this is definitely not some toxic hustle culture or like self-torture. It's just rooted in a very simple truth of nature. Think about it. A lotus flower doesn't grow in clean, perfectly pristine water. It grows in the dark, in the dirt, in the heavy mud. Because without the mud, there's absolutely no flower.
All right, let's get into the process. Part 3. Stage 1, the seed.
The Japanese actually call this very first stage nitai, which loosely translates to enduring patience. Just picture a little seed buried deep down in the mud. It doesn't complain that the situation is unfair, right? It doesn't sit there stressing about the darkness. It just adapts. And the samurai viewed difficulty in that exact same way. For them, discomfort wasn't some shocking surprise. It was the expected starting point. So when your alarm goes off at 5 a.m. or you're staring down a massive, daunting task, that discomfort you feel isn't a glitch in the system. It's the starting line.
And this ancient wisdom perfectly lines up with modern insight. Stephen Pressfield notes in The War of Art that resistance comes before literally every meaningful act. The people who actually succeed are the ones who recognize that resistance as a true sign of growth. So next time you catch yourself wanting to avoid a really hard task, just stop fighting the resistance. Look right at the mud, take a deep breath, accept that it's going to be super uncomfortable, and just take that very first step. That right there is how you plant the seed.
Moving on to part 4, stage 2 and 3, the ascent.
So stage 2 is called shisei, which means posture and intention. This is entirely about how you physically face a challenge. Think about the samurai. Even when they felt intense, paralyzing fear, they stood perfectly straight. They knew that their physical presence directly dictated their mental state. They let their body guide their mind.
And hey, Modern science proves exactly why this works. The researcher Amy Cuddy found that a slouched body literally leads to lowered confidence, whereas a straight, open posture signals clear intention. Your body posture actually alters your brain chemistry. Crazy, right? So the next time you sit down to tackle something difficult, just try sitting up straight. Pull your shoulders back. It sends a powerful biological signal straight to your brain that says, okay, I am ready.
Now, that upward push brings us to stage 3, Kensho, or self-realization. Picture our lotus nearing the surface of the water now. You can finally start to see the light, but, and here's the catch, that heavy mud is still pulling at you from below. To keep pushing through that, the samurai practiced regular reflection. Not to feed their egos, mind you, but to maintain absolute clarity on their journey.
And this practice of reflection, it's a huge cornerstone of modern behavioral science. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says that seeing progress is hands down the absolute best fuel for motivation. The author Brian Tracy agrees too, noting that consistently reviewing your progress builds consistency. If your brain doesn't see undeniable proof that you're moving forward, like if you don't take a second to acknowledge those small wins, it's probably just going to give up on the whole process.
So, to stop your brain from throwing in the towel, you can use these exact reflection questions. Just take a moment each week and ask yourself, what did I overcome this week? What new thing did I learn? How did I actually make progress today? By answering these questions, you take those silent moments of endurance and turn them into tangible proof of your growth. You are basically proving to your brain that the Ascent is actually working.
Which brings us to the final part, Section 5, Stage 4, the bloom.
The Japanese call this final stage kaika, or blossoming. For the samurai, this was that magic moment when forced discipline naturally shifted into a permanent identity. It just became who they were. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the lotus doesn't bloom despite the mud, or because it found some perfectly clean environment. No, it blooms specifically because of the struggle it had to push through to reach the light.
And honestly, here is the most incredible part of this entire process, and it is completely grounded in modern neuroscience. Cal Newt points out that when we repeatedly choose hard focus and meaningful discomfort, we are engaging in neuroplasticity. We are quite literally physically changing the structure of our brains. By choosing to do the hard thing over and over, you wire your brain to handle it with ease. It's like a real-life superpower.
So the ultimate takeaway is just this: what is hard today will be normal tomorrow. This is exactly why you have to choose at least one uncomfortable, meaningful task to do every single day. Seriously, don't look at it as self-punishment. View it as self-training. Remember, the bloom only happens after the climb.
I want to leave you with a pretty stark question to think about. Will you run back to comfort, or will you stand in the mud? Because greatness, it isn't born from talent, it's built from endurance, from intention and repetition. Make a silent commitment to yourself right now that you are not going to back down from the discomfort anymore.